Welcome back, everyone, to another one-on-one with JerryVHall. Today's guest is an absolute fan favorite. It's Sam I Am. That's right, to the lifeboats. Sits down and has a conversation with me. Now, I have to tell you up front, if you are not at all interested in an equally weighted conversation where myself and my guest share and exchange thoughts and ideas, then this is not the video for you. I do not ask a 3-second question and Sam goes on to elaborate for 30, 40, 50 seconds, and then I ask another 3-second question. It isn't like that at all. This is an actual recorded conversation. I found it very insightful to listen to Sam talk about where he's at, what he's got going on. We share things that we have in common, and there's even topics that come up where we depart from a philosophical perspective. The sound isn't excellent, and that's why this was not released immediately. However, Sam is extremely busy, and getting him back in studio for another conversation has been difficult. But I wanted to get this out to you because I believe it provides an insight to Sam that we don't always get in his content videos or his live streams. I hope you enjoy it, and it's coming up right now.
Okay, no
Sam,
problem.
thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me today. How's life in Texas?
It's good, man. I've just spent a few days with my daughter out at the farm and back at my apartment doing my guerrilla gardening thing that I've been talking about. And, as good as it can be with everything going on.
Yeah, it's been crazy times, crazy times. I tell you, I've enjoyed your last couple of videos. You and I have a lot of the same interests as it pertains to self-sovereignty. I have I'd say a pretty extensive background in sustainable agriculture, organic agriculture, as well as the disciplines outside of veg and fruit, vermiculture, aquaculture, things of that nature. And yeah, it's surprising to see how many people would be lost if they couldn't go to the grocery store and buy food.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
yeah.
And how many people think if you just buy seeds, and I've got this little heirloom seed number 10 can, that I'm good to go. I'm just going to drop those seeds in the ground. They're all going to come up, and then there'll be food later. And we
Right.
know it's not quite that simple.
No, it isn't. But it doesn't have to be that difficult either. It's like anything else. I will tell you. So my studies in nutrition, anatomy, physiology that led me into agriculture, you know, were really preparing me in a process, not so much about the content, but about learning. And so when I got invested into my digital assets back in early 2018, that opened a door to learning about a whole new complex world that I thought I understood, but quickly came to realize I had no idea what really was going on, nor did I have any kind of competency around financial literacy. And it doesn't, I mean, Ray Charles could see that you have obtained enough education, enough information to have a very solid financial literacy base. You want to walk us through that journey and some observations you made about yourself and others, maybe along the way?
So, it probably started like my mom when my brother and I were teenagers, paid us $500 to not watch TV all summer long because she wanted us outside playing and this and that. And we saved it and we cleaned house for, a year and a half, I think, and saved up and got a little Honda 80R motorcycle dirt bike that we rode around the farm. And, uh, um, like I never followed sports. I never cared, never really have cared. I don't mind going to a game, but to sit there and watch it on TV is just mind-numbingly boring, and learn all about the stats of the different players and what happened at this game and this year, and could care less. I've always just I enjoy learning. I didn't hated school, but I really enjoy learning about things and listening to audiobooks and that sort of thing. I turned my TV off like, oh gosh, at least 20 years ago. Uh, eh, I still would watch shows like from Netflix or that sort of thing, but just cutting out the commercials. It's hard for me to sit through an entire commercial break without just getting insulted. Like, are you kidding me? The message it's so obvious what you're trying to say. Like, drink and sure you'll live forever and get to spend time with your grandkids. And it's like, come on, it's a sugar drink with protein in it.
Yeah.
I can't sit through the programming, and that's really what it is. So I switched it off. I started reading. I listened. I was one of the early YouTubers, but I was watching YouTube. What happened is I did this training. A lot of people have heard of Landmark
Hmm.
Education.
Sure.
I didn't do that one. I did something different, which is not so much business focused, much more personal and very experiential training, and went through like all of those courses. They made a PhD course. I did that. It was 6 months, and we did some amazing stuff like, oh, at 4 o'clock today, in a few hours from now, you're going to feed 100 people that may not be able to eat today using no resources of your own. Go. Like,
Right.
okay. We made it happen. I walked into restaurants and got donations. Just they didn't know who I was, but I enrolled them in our vision, kind of thing. So
Sure.
doing that sort of stuff, um, I would give speeches, and my speeches would be political, but they would kind of come out angry. It's a fine line between anger and passion, and like how you get passion across without it also coming across as angry. Uh, and one of the guys in the training with me, at the end of it, he came up and he said, "Hey, Sam, do you know what a podcast is?" I'm like, "No." He goes, "I think you would really be good doing a podcast. I would challenge you to learn about it and create one of your own." I'm like, "Okay, challenge accepted." So I went out and I looked up one of the ranking sites for podcasts, and I found this show called Free Talk Live, which is a nationally syndicated talk radio program that was doing podcasting. This was back in 2005, I think, 2006. And so I started listening to them, and it's 100% pro liberty. You've got two hosts on there, Mark and Ian. Mark's more of a minarchist. Ian's an anarchist like me. So the two of them are thrashing their ideas about and reading news stories and talking about them. And then I just started, eventually I started calling in, but I started realizing, okay, if I want to get good at this, I need to be able to engage in the same way that they do. So I would listen, I would pause, and then I'd give my response, just by myself, talking to myself, walking around the house kind of thing. And then I'd unpause it and listen to what they had to say and see, okay, how did they approach it versus me? Uh, uh, There, a lot of um, like my polish and style and that sort of thing comes from listening to my own content. So I would call in, tell them a story about I was flying without ID when I was traveling corporate. I'd go up and say, "I'm sorry, I don't have any ID to show." They'd mark me down as a quad S, the super secret special search. And then I'd go through the TSA, and I had a trifold brochure that was a petition for redress of grievances that an artist friend of mine made, and I cut a slit in it and turned it into the ticket sleeve. So when they asked for my ticket, I would hand them the ticket with the petition for redress of grievances. And these guys, the TSA, this was early days of TSA, who are trained to look for anything out of the ordinary. Most of them never even noticed that it was not a normal airline ticket sleeve. It was this purple and, really well made petition for redress of grievances. Some of them would see it, and like I would leave it with them a lot of the times to look over, because it had things about them failing these tests and how the inefficiencies and so forth. And one time I came back and there's like 5 of them grouped around it. They're all reading it, and they look at me and they're like, "This isn't true." So just I was doing a lot of things along those lines, and I would call in and talk about it and kind of get better. I started reading Zero Hedge.
Yeah.
I listened to Bob Chapman, who is Bob Chapman. Who are the other ones? Gerald Salente, Peter Schiff, of course. And you kind of get their narrative and their perspective and view on the world, and then I'd move on to the next one. Anytime I run across something in zero hedge, especially in the early days, whoa, there's so much technical jargon, and I just have no idea, like, what are they talking about? So then I go and look it up and read more and that's what it takes. It's a lot of work, and I'm still, I don't consider myself that financially literate, but um, by taking all those perspectives and kind of pulling pieces from what different people have had to say, it's kind of helped me build a bigger picture of what all's going on, because each of them kind of focused on their one little area. And by kind of looking across the landscape, I think it's really helped me see where this stuff's going and how I'm able to say, well, here's what they're going to do. And then they go and do it. And the same, it's exactly what Zero Hedge is doing as well with the 3 writers that post the news stories there. They know the scams and the tricks and the fraud and stuff that's going on behind the scenes, and they know how that's going to end up, so they can pretty much predict it over and over again, and they do.
Wow. I'll tell you, there's a lot to unpack there. I, like yourself, I was 30 at the time. Almost 30. About to have my first child, Dylan. This is 1997. And I got invited to this event, and it was an enrollment event, make no mistake about it. But I went to it, and
Okay.
I was at a time in my life where it made sense what I was hearing. I got involved. I did the Sterling Men's Weekend, and although that 2-day event was powerful in and of itself, what really was powerful was the volunteer organization I decided to get involved with after the fact of graduates. And we would do things like what you talked about. Okay, you got to feed 150 people without using any of your own resources. Go. We did a lot of that type of stuff through various foundations like the International Service Day Foundation, Operation ELF, Christmas in April. I mean, it was amazing to work with volunteers and learn leadership skills that have nothing to do with authority, because volunteers, you don't have authority over volunteers. They're volunteers. You know what I mean? So you have to utilize things like understanding the purpose.
Right.
Why are you there? You have to have a set of principles like commitment, honesty, perseverance. And I demonstrated that with you, trying to get you an interview with you for the last 6 months or 5 months or however long it's been. And it was the best 8 or 9 years of my life. And then things happened. I got remarried, and my business went a different direction, and my involvement in the volunteer organization diminished, over time. But I will tell you, it was one of the fondest periods. So many principles were gained, many tools were gained, things that I still use to this very day. Matter of fact, I mean, if I say I'm going to be somewhere, I'm there at the time I said I was going to be there. If I make an agreement with you, I fulfill it no matter what, because I learned the value of commitment and how emotions don't have anything to do with agreements. So if I make an agreement to do something with you, I'm going to do it even if I don't want to, because I made an agreement. See, there are a lot of those kind of things. I think a lot of people operate, and their behaviors and their decisions are made from their emotions, not from a set of principles that they've adopted that they live by. And I've done what I can to teach my son these things. We'll see. So far, so good. I know that you have a young mind and a spirit that you're molding. Good for you. You say you don't think you're that financially literate. Had I never listened to any of your content, I'd be prone to believe you. But I've listened to a lot of your content. You are very knowledgeable. You understand the way value moves around the world. That may have been new information as you've dived into digital assets, because my financial education, beyond balancing a checkbook, and managing, some company credit lines all came from being in this digital asset space
Yeah.
and really wanting to get into the weeds with how does this thing really work?
Yeah.
RippleNet. How does RippleNet really work? What is the difference between RippleNet and the XRP ledger? What is this token and what are other tokens? How are they moving value or interacting with other value sets? I mean, what a glorious rabbit hole to go down, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. For me, that was like probably early 2018 when I started diving into some of the technical documents and the MT, 301 or whatever it is, that the Swift system uses for cross-border payments. And it was, I was struck by how similar it is to what I was doing in telecom and the way the telephone network runs. It was like, wow, this is exactly, same kind of deal, because you have this number that you're trying to route to, and you don't know what path it's going to take or how many hops or who's going to be able to get it there, but you just kind of send it out and hope that it shows up, kind of thing. Um, and usually it does, it's pretty
Yeah.
reliable. But so that, I do have a technical background, engineering degree, and very analytical mind and all that. So, in some regards it's easy, but it's really just been years and years of reading and learning and listening to people. I think there's there's a lot of people that like will watch stuff, but they'll listen, but they don't really hear it. And when I'm listening to somebody, I'm trying to also put myself in their shoes and understand where they're coming from and their motivations for saying what they're saying. And then you throw the body language stuff like that on top of it, and it really, I think, paints a pretty powerful picture for what's being communicated.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I think that's best illustrated if somebody were to go to your library and pull up the Joe Saz Bitcoin Maxi interaction that you had. No, I mean, I say this as a compliment because I will tell you, I'm a pretty calm guy, right? And a very, very, very optimistic person versus pessimistic. And I would much rather be positive than negative. But I found myself during that particular exchange between you and he, thinking to myself, if I were Sam, I would just pull my hair out and say, you know what, you're just not going to get it. You absolutely refuse to open your mind. And that's okay, but it's a detriment because apply that same kind of principle to any other area of your life and it could be life or death. I mean, I know we're only talking about crypto right now, but this tunnel vision approach to life, that when you lock into a thought, that's the only thing there is and it can't be dissuaded. That's dangerous
Yeah.
if the right circumstances come into play. And so something that I equate to Sam I am is that you do have very strong opinions, but they're also weakly held. That,
Yes.
as a matter of fact, I have seen you either apologize or change your opinion based on new information that's come. And to me, to have an articulate, intelligent man be humble enough to say, I learned something new and I'm changing my stance.
Yeah.
To me, that's powerful. It really is. I try to carry that principle in my life. You've exhibited for me. So in a way, you've helped mentor me. And I want to say thank you for that.
Oh, you're welcome. It comes from, so I started calling into the radio show. I went out to some of the Free State Project events up in New Hampshire, met Ian and Mark in person, and I ended up moving up there for 2 years and was a weekly co-host on the show.
Mhm.
And if you don't know, if you've never listened to Free Talk Live, it's on, the AM and FM radios all over the world, really, and KU band satellite. And people can pick up the phone, dial a number. Okay, so in talk radio, they just really drill into the host. Stick to your guns, stick to your position, don't change your mind. You don't want to be wishy-washy. You'll lose viewership. And, they're all about selling ads, not really communicating ideas and information, that sort of thing. And, Ian was really somebody who would be willing to like throw everything out if new information came in. And I really have adopted that over the last several years. And I think people, it's authentic. We're all, none of us are perfect, and we all make mistakes and learn things. And when new information comes in, you really should be willing to say, to heck with it, I don't care, I'm throwing everything out to evaluate this new piece of information and then bringing back again what fits. And I think that's how we learn and grow as people.
I could not agree more. I could not agree more. I don't want to talk about Joe Saz anymore. Okay, so
Okay.
no, I just want to be positive. So, this I really, really, really liked, that there are many different, very competent, sensible people dissecting things. Sure, there is some connecting of dots,
Yeah.
but it's not really that much of a stretch to say, okay, if Sam and Jerry were seen doing a podcast together, chances are that something was said beyond just the topic that was filmed. I think that's a fair speculation, right? Uh-oh.
I'm here.
Oh, okay. So
Okay.
there's a lot of folks that connect the dots. There are a lot of YouTubers that put up sensational things that aren't exactly grounded in reality. However, I've appreciated a lot of your stuff because you're pulling up a document, you're describing what you see. It's like you do this thing. I'm paraphrasing a Sam thing here. I could be wrong, but I don't think so. You know what I mean? And
You gotta
I mean,
leave
you
the
just
door
did this
open.
one, the Bank of America thing you did 2 days ago, case in point.
Yeah.
Case in point, here's the text word for word out of their mouth. What do you think this means? So, do you think they are spending the money on the licensing for Ripple Tech to only use X current? I mean, insert picture of dog
and
going, huh?
here's
What?
here's the thing, Jerry. And this is something a lot of people don't understand. It's Ripple Riddler and Bearable Guy 123 and Crypto Bear. Those three are the ones who dropped little hints here and there that kind of helped me see the big picture. They were the Gerald Salentes and the Bob Chapmans and Peter Schiffs of the crypto world that kind of helped me see what's happening, what pieces are falling into place, what tracks being laid, so that as things progressed, it just becomes very clear to me what's happening behind the scenes. Like they impressed upon me the magnitude of this paradigm shift. And that's how I can take a guess that, yeah, they're fighting back and forth to get that Ripple gateway when that wasn't immediately clear. But when you understand the big picture of this is really going to change banking and global finance as we know it, and these guys don't want to be left behind. And then we had one of the American Express former employees, he dropped a hint. I used to work for a credit card company. We'll call it Centurion, which is one of their cards, an American Express card. And he talked about, what his co-workers have been doing with Ripple. And he said, it looks really positive and this and that. No way is Visa and MasterCard going to be left behind. And that's why they're fighting over Earthport. It becomes obvious that that's what's happening. And then months later to see it confirmed is icing on the cake.
Well, yeah, I mean, I remember this so vividly. So my official entry into the space with research started very beginning of February 2018. And I got to the point where money started going in at the end of March. And it was sometime at the end of March in April that I got hip to the immense community of XRP people, whether it be through YouTube, Twitter, what have you, right? And all that stuff would come and it'd be, okay, cool, 589 in the year, boy, that'd be great. I didn't my investment wasn't based on that information, although that would be really cool.
Yeah.
But in hindsight, right? In hindsight, after watching, like, for instance, I forget his name and I forget the conference, but a Santander employee, head of a program, wrapped down with great articulation the magnitude of this. We have been working on this with Ripple for 3 years, and it had something to do with, the central banks, and we were not allowed to say anything about it. And thank God Libra came along, because now we can talk about it. The minute I heard that, I went, maybe all that shit was true. Maybe those cartoon knuckleheads got it right, and it's just, maybe it's not happening on the initial timeline that we thought. So it's not about
I
it,
think so.
right?
We
It's not
even
about
have
it.
David Schwartz. We even have David Schwartz saying, this has taken longer than I thought. I'd planned to move on by now. And if
Right.
you remember, I think it was the end of 2018 when Brad was doing those AMAs, which are not really AMAs because they don't read the questions. They kind of
No.
summarize them and whatever. I submitted like, I think 3 or 4 questions, had everybody upvote them. They hit 700 likes, and they were the top questions out of everybody in the XRP community. And he, I, I think they were almost all ignored, except he did make a comment. I don't like all of this clandestine stuff. He used a very interesting word that's like, okay, he's answering my question. He saw, I know you're at him, and he can't talk about it because there is, like you say, boy, it runs deep what they're doing. I mean, and the people come in all the time worried, like, oh, is this coin, it's a threat to Ripple. Yeah. And it's like, the banks, I don't know how many times I've said it, they're not going to jump into bed with just the next crypto to come along. And the other key to this is liquidity. Ripple has the guy who used to run the CME desk, the trading desk, one of the largest in the world, building liquidity behind the scenes, bringing in market makers, making this whole thing work. To name me one other crypto project that's got anything resembling that. I mean, even with a high school graduate or college graduate coming out trying to do something like that, nobody is. They've built the crypto. Okay, great. That's the easy part. Some of them have some partnerships. Okay, great. But if you don't have liquidity in markets around the world, you really don't have much. So yeah, it's just, it's so obvious, at least to me it is.
Sure.
And I still have to say, I could be wrong, but I don't know. I don't see it.
I don't see it either, man. It's exciting times. One of the, another thing that I really, there's a level-headedness about you. You've never been a proponent, from what I've observed, of the go all in. I'm all in. I'm leveraging the house. I'm selling the truck. If I have to walk for 3 months, I don't care. You know what I mean? There's always been like a rational thing to you. Now, although I appreciate that, I did not personally do that. I'm all in. But it leads me to kind of where you and I have paths that are similar, very similar, and I'll explain mine, and I'm sure you'll see this. In 2015, my son was turning 18, and he was going to leave, and had a business, had a home, truck, car, motorcycle, stuff, and it was like, I don't want to keep working just to support all this stuff, because I've got to make $4,500 a month just to be here. That's not prosper. That's not save. That's not invest. That's just to be here. So sold everything, got my life down to 400 pounds, went to Hawaii to work on organic farms through a program called Wolfing, Worldwide Organic. Sorry,
I used
worldwide
to do
opportunities on organic farms.
I used to do pasture raised chicken, don't you?
No, but I totally, it doesn't shock me one bit, because that's,
Yeah, I had mobile pens that I would move every day and took them to the Dallas Farmers Market and sold them for a
you
couple of
had the
years.
chicken tractors. Good for you. Now, how were you buying pre-laid chicks, or were you actually having your own chickens produce the eggs and producing your own chicks on farm?
So I had a layer flock. I would usually go to a breeder and
Ah,
buy, um, a few day old or a few week old chicks for the layers.
mhm,
Uh, for the broilers, you order those. I would
right.
get them from a hatchery initially. There's several ones that you can order. Eventually, there's in Texas, there's two uh, state of Texas licensed poultry processors. And I would go to both of those and kind of split my business between them. And one of them also did a hatchery. They're Windy Meadows Farm. They're pretty big, and I started buying day old chicks from them for a dollar a piece, which is cheaper than I would get them from the hatchery. And I go out there and pick them up, and that's made it work. So, but it's hard. You have to get to a certain scale to where you have silos and you have 18 wheelers bringing your grain in by the ton, or you're just not going to be, it's not profitable to try and do it on, anything really much smaller of a scale. And you go to the farmer's market and it's like, at least in Dallas, there's just not people who are really dedicated to that kind of lifestyle. It's like, it's not like a trip to the grocery store for them. It's a cool thing that they go and do, you know, a few times a year. And it's tough. So,
Well, I'll tell you one of the thing. Okay, so there are things that impact the economy, and obviously the farm bill and subsidies to farmers has hurt in a lot of ways the small farmers. Not to
hmm
mention, and because I did this, I built an organic farm when I came back from Hawaii for a friend in Sonoma County. The sheer magnitude of the hoops you have to jump through to get your farm certified organic, especially in the state of California, is not only
hmm
expensive, it's arduous. But anyway, I
yes.
digress. Here was the wonderful thing. On Big Island of Hawaii, and this is true for any of the islands out there, or any island nation, period, because it costs so much to ship in your processed garbage and stock a grocery store shelf with the processed chronic disease ridden crap, it
hmm
is actually it's cost advantageous for local farmers to produce local produce, local raised, whether it be poultry, fish, or
hmm
or carny meat, and have farmers markets. So on the Big Island, there are tons of farmers markets with tons of incredible fresh organic food, and not just that, coffee, the
Yeah.
kombuchas, in
Yeah.
in in all these wonderful products, because growing your food is cheaper than importing it from
On the
California.
cargo ship. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I learned to make these incredible sauerkrauts and kimchis from the cabbage I would grow in the other
hmm
veggies. Like I would incorporate carrots, and the only thing I'll tell you, the only thing I had to buy is garlic. Garlic did not grow well in Hawaii. But other than that, greenhouse, indoor, outdoor, you could figure out a way depending upon where you were to make it work. Food sovereignty, people just, the masses don't understand it because for so long we've had generations conditioned to getting their sustenance from a grocery store.
Yeah. I mean, as a society, I think we still need division of labor where you have people who specialize in farming and specialize in this and that. But what's happened is the petrodollar paradigm, uh,
Oh,
it's putting 5,000 calories in every, or forget fuel. What is it? The food's moving an average of 5,000 miles and it has all these calories embedded into it from all the diesel and transport that's used to move the food around the market. So, like, I don't know if you saw the video last night, but I talked about what's happening with oil and how that's likely to, it's cheap now, go buy it. But a few months from now, after a bunch of these companies have gone bankrupt and then the supplies dry up and it's a few people left, expect prices to go way up. That could create food shocks like people don't understand. I mean,
They don't.
it, yeah.
They've never
And
experienced
so
a food shock.
it's so important to have these local communities and, be self-sufficient as best we, and it's frustrating to be, to like try to be a part of that and just see how few people really get that, at the, and there I had some awesome incredible customers that would come see me every week and would buy chicken and so forth. But I think most people were there because it was kind of like a novelty to go to the Dallas Farmers Market. So, what do you do?
Well, there's so many. Here's the thing. It's part of the whole misinformation deal. If you look at big money, and when I say big, I'm talking, that's exactly what I mean. It's not a secret code for anything. It's big money. So it doesn't matter if it's big money in medicine, big money in food, big money in pharma, big money in toilet paper. It doesn't matter. Big money. The the manipulation of law, or the influence of law by big money as it pertains to
I'll be right
what's
back.
actual law. Yeah, okay. Versus,
Okay.
or not, in conjunction with the regulation, the regulatory bodies, you know what I mean, where you've got, Food and Drug Administration executives or governors or administrators, I don't even know the names of their titles, going in and out of Cargills and Monsantos and
Yeah.
General
Yeah.
Mills and this. It's scary. It was the reason I got out of the game. One of the big reasons is because Sam, it's so damn enormous
Mm-hmm.
that until the world gets locked down and food runs out and the gas pumps are dry, people will not revolt. Voices like you will stand up and you'll get on a soapbox, but they won't revolt until it gets like too late to I mean, a whole
Yeah.
new thing will have to erupt.
Until it affects them, and then it's too late.
The
It's like,
world will have to burn down for change to really happen. And I came to that realization in 2015. I'm in Costa Rica now as a direct result of that realization.
mm-hmm.
And I still hold that to be true, although I'm not as political as you. I just actually, instead of talk, I just went and did something about it. I said, I'm getting out of your game. I don't have any debt. I don't need your sustenance programs. I don't need you. You don't need me. I'll live in a place where I can grow my food and be happy and enjoy
Live a simple
life.
life. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Watch my XRP investment grow. I'll create a community farm, a wellness place where people can come down here and detox and get healthy if they want or not.
I mean, that was one of my first steps. Is I got rid of all my debt, and I haven't even had a credit card for 15 years at least, probably 20. I remember they had upped the limit automatically to like $20,000, and I called him up and I said, I want to change the credit limit. He's like, okay, what would you like me to raise it to? No, I want you to set it to $10,000. And can you lock it there and not automatically increase it? I'm not going to go out and buy a car with this thing. It doesn't need to be that high.
Yeah.
And he was like stunned on the phone. And, later I ended up getting rid of it because it's a trap. I mean, it really is. And I was pretty responsible, but I would build up, a couple $1,000 in debt at times and then have to work to pay that off. And it's like, for what? why don't you just exercise some self-restraint and control and planning? And I haven't looked back. I don't really regret it. So,
I don't. You know what I mean? So for you, so you understand the contrast. So I went from a minimum of needing 4,500 a month to keep the house going, all the insurance is paid, notes, this, that, and the other thing, right? To $350 a month.
yeah, nice.
And here's the trick. The truth is, if I decided to, I could go to $0 per month and just go back to working on a farm for exchange for room and board.
Mm-hmm.
But I have a longtime dear friend came down a year ago. I got him living next to me. He's much older than I am. He's not that healthy. So I'm hanging around because I love him. I love him like the dad I never had kind of guy. But if I had to flick a switch tomorrow, I could make 5 phone calls and be at a farm and not have to have any financial outlay.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
is so freeing.
It is. Your things end up tying you down. And, I started to realize that a little bit too. And it's just, yeah, I, I would go, in my corporate days, I was making good, 6 figures,
Mhm.
would be on these business trips. I'd be bored to death. Oh, great. Another corporate dinner with people I wouldn't hang out with outside of work. It is what it is. And you're wearing the corporate mask and all that, and I would just be so bored up there. I would go shopping and just buy clothes I didn't need. I had a closet you could park a car in, and it was just like lined with clothes. I built a shoe rack at one point that had 34 spots for shoes, and that was so that I would reduce the number of shoes. That I'm a guy, yes, but I had 34 pairs of shoes. That was down from like 50 something. And I had to make a rule. Okay, if I buy these Bruno Mollies here, something else has got to go because they got to have a spot. And that's how I started kind of reining it in. But yeah, it's just, and then when I moved to New Hampshire, I spent $5,000 hauling all this shit up there in a big truck. $5,000 hauling it all back. And it's like, why am I doing this? Now I have, long-term food storage and stuff like that, that kind of glad I've been carrying that around, but there is, I don't look at things the same way. My brother's like completely the opposite. He's Mr. Oakley's and, all the name brand stuff. And his wife's just, oh, awful, so materialistic. And they live in a $500,000 house and all this stuff. And it's just, it's what you choose. Okay, Brooks, but it's not something that's really all that desirable to me. It's one thing to have passive income where, okay, this, the same amount comes next month if I do nothing, and you just have this money to blow on stuff. It's another thing when you're actually working for it, and your things end up owning you, is I think what you're kind of describing.
Well, it was definitely, you're right. There was an attachment.
Hmm.
It was, I could not have left on a dime. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
There
you,
was
you
an
know Eric
obligation.
Voorhees, right?
What now?
You know Eric Voorhees that runs Shapeshift?
Oh, sure.
Did you know that he got everything he owns down to one suitcase at one point? He
No, I
was,
didn't know that.
yeah, he did the same thing. He was an early Bitcoin guy, got it, caught on pretty quick, put all of his money into Bitcoin and got rid of, I think he had an apartment maybe in New York or something. He was in New Hampshire for a while. I saw Facebook friends. I saw a post about him having everything I owns in this little roller, stowaway bag, that a carry-on bag. And he, I think, went off to Panama at that point. So it's, I don't know if I could go that far, but it's certainly a fascinating uh, thought experiment.
Well, everybody has their different motivations for doing things, but I will tell
Hmm.
you this. Living in another country that the primary language is different than your own
Hmm.
is such an incredible instrument for perspective.
Yes.
And it, because there are a lot of people I follow. I have a lot of pseudo mentors, whether they be in the digital asset space or they be in the world of finance or health or nutrition, farming, etc. And most of the time, people do not need to say they have spent a year or two or whatever living in another country with a different language, because you can almost see it
Hmm.
the way, I mean, because what you are forced to be a student,
Hmm.
and being a student has requires a certain level of humility as you age, and it's a
Hmm.
wonderful perspective to have. You know what I mean?
Oh
um
yeah.
I see you, if not moving to another country, spending a couple of months probably before and after that anarchist conference in Acapulco, Mexico.
Yeah. Ian goes to that in March.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's fun, dude.
I
It's great.
like I went to I've traveled all over the world, and I used to go to Scotland every year for R&D
Oh, okay,
meeting, and then I would hop down to Amsterdam for the weekend,
cool.
have some fun there. I went backpacking across Europe with a buddy of mine, Brian, for a couple weeks. We did like 6 countries at least: Prague and Parsberg and Nuremberg and Amsterdam, and we went skiing in Innsbruck, Austria, snowboarding. Um, and like I always make it a point to learn a little bit of the language. Like when I
Sure.
went to Brazil, I studied Portuguese for a couple months, and then I rented a local apartment from somebody off of like an Airbnb site. It was before Airbnb existed, and I would shop in the local grocery stores. I go to the airport on the way back from Sweden. I'm like, hey, hey. And the person starts giving us all the instructions in Swedish. And I'm like, okay, hold on. You lost me there. He looked up like shocked at me because I gave him the Swedish greeting.
Right.
He thought we were Swedes, and it just like shocked him to realize, oh, we're Americans. When I was in Amsterdam buying some clothes or something, uh, the lady checking me out said something to me in Nederlands, I guess is their language. It's not Dutch, but and I said, "Oh, ik niet spreek Nederlands, ik spreek Noes." And she looked up at me just shocked, and the lady that was helping me over here said, "Oh yeah, yeah, he's American." And so I try and like blend in like that and like experience it. I don't go to places to do the touristy stuff. That doesn't really appeal to me all that much. I mean, sure, you want to see different sites and stuff, but it's for me, traveling is always about soaking up the culture. In Sweden, you see all the men pushing strollers around, and they have the little candle things outside their shops to welcome people in. And it's just, it's it really adds to your perspective to see different value systems out there around the world, because we have just such a perverted, skewed system of value as Americans. And we're so arrogant. And like most of these people around the world speak 2 or more languages, and like we barely get English, a lot of us. Um, so it is. I don't know. Traveling is something I wish I could take every American and give them that perspective, because I think America would change overnight if we could somehow do that.
Interesting. See, I'm kind of introspective at times, and even have flashes of maturity. And during one of those unique moments, it became very clear to me that I formed a worldview early in my high school. So I graduated in 1984,
Hmm.
and that happened to be ushering in the Reagan
Mhm.
experience, 2 terms of Reagan and then Bush who followed. And it was a very, and I'm not saying he's responsible for this. I'm just saying that was the time and place that all this was happening. There was a very USA, USA's number one. Well, if USA is number one, that means everybody is below you.
Yes.
And I will tell you, having the opportunity to be and live in other countries, it is amazing to me the sheer graciousness. Like for
Mhm.
instance, here in Costa Rica, I don't live anywhere near the main city, the big city, San Jose. There's no airport. My closest airport's almost 4 hours away. You know what I mean? We don't get
Yeah.
a lot of tourists here.
You're remote. Yeah.
But it's not a small place either. I mean, we have a Walmart, so it's
Okay.
not a tiny little village, but it's also not a big touristy town. The point is, the people are gracious, they're family oriented. Yes, Catholicism is the predominant thing. And I'm not Catholic. I don't even know if I'm religious. I would consider myself spiritually based in principles, not so much in a deity. But the point is,
Mhm.
the people are kind, they're warm. Um, and I've experienced that everywhere in the world, with the exception of the United States. And I've been into a lot of places. Massachusetts, Texas, Oregon, California,
Yeah.
Arizona, New Mexico, and people are extremely defensive, distrusting, off-putting at first contact. And it's
Mhm.
the complete opposite everywhere else in the world I've gone.
Mhm.
I
I
find
was in
that I
line.
find that as a very interesting thing.
Yeah. I was in line in customs coming back from, I don't know, some international trip. And there's this 80-year-old woman who got in the wrong lane for the US passports, not the European and other passports. And she walks up to the immigration guy and he's like yelling at her, "You're in the wrong line. You got to go over there." And da, 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 da. He was just being a complete ass. This lady didn't even speak English. She's like, "Huh? I don't." And it got so bad that somebody, I was about to let the guy have it. Somebody else spoke up and said, "She doesn't speak English. She's 80 years old. You're being a jerk." Of course, you don't really want to say that going into immigration because they'll, "Oh, sir, we're going to need you to go back for secondary screening."
Right.
But there is this arrogance,
There is.
and it's so off-putting to me, just having that perspective, just like you, that you get when you travel.
It's dude. I'll tell you, this is a story from my past. So um, I had a group of buddies that were, we were friends in high school. Coming out of high school, there were 4 of us, and we did all that partying together, all that crazy, the crazy stuff you do. Nothing really out of line, illegal or anything like that. Just full on boom. We decided to go to San Diego from Northern California, Bay Area, to go into Tijuana for just an incredible weekend because the drinking age was 18. Okay, boom, we go down there. We're in Tijuana, having the time of our lives, being silly, being fun, having a great time. The night's, I don't know, 3 o'clock in the morning. It's time. We had walked across the border. Now we're gonna walk back. So you got to do the whole, your IDs and all that
Yep.
kind of stuff.
Yep.
This is before you had to have a passport. And there's a guy sitting at the table and he goes, "State your citizenry." First guy, USA. Show him my ID, USA. Guy behind me, USA. My buddy Pat, he says, USSR. They were on him so fast. They took him
Yeah.
upstairs and kept him there for 2 hours. We had to wait in the parking lot on the California side of the border for 2.5 hours waiting for him because he wanted to be, funny. And they knew where he was from, but the point is, they showed him, "Look at you,
You
you
have
ain't
to respect my authority. That's really what it comes down to. They do not like being laughed at as, like a civil disobedience activist. That's one of the things we learned real quick is the thing that offends them the most is laughing at how silly some of the things that they do are. They want to be taken seriously and they want to be respected and revered and all this stuff, while they're pissing all over everything that they claim to, all the principles that they claim to rest upon. And it's just, yeah,
You know what?
to
Hey, you know
me,
what I
it
think would be
all
really,
comes.
I'm sorry, I hate to interrupt, but you just sparked a thought, and you're the guy to tell me.
No, it's okay.
I would love to know you. Okay, so I'm going to paint a picture for you. XRP has hit the magic number that Sam has been waiting for. Does Sam go completely off grid? And explain what happens to Sam, because I have a picture in my head. It's you building a fully sustainable, with your own solar, wind, hydroelectric, sovereignty as it pertains to food, both animal husbandry and veg and fruit, multiple water sources, right?
Yeah.
And an
Carbon
ability
bunker.
to create your own kerosene
I don't know about that. I'll
from
just stock it
some
because I'll
kind
have
of
the
really
cash.
cool shrub that produces an oil you've made flammable. That's
I
my
would
guess.
build
Tell me what would really happen.
I would build a ICF house, probably with 12-inch walls that are
ICF.
basically insulated concrete form.
Oh,
So I
gotcha,
did
gotcha,
all
gotcha.
kinds of. I started building an earth bag house before I hurt my neck and couldn't finish it. So I've done all kinds of natural building I like, and studied all kinds of building science as well. There's the Build Channel. We got a builder in Austin that just blows my mind with some of the stuff they're doing to build houses these days. ICF has foam, 2 sheets of foam like this. You can't see that, and
I
concrete
understand
in the
what you're
middle.
saying now once you hit me with the acronym.
So yeah, so then you lay rebar in it, and it insulates the outside, it insulates the inside, and you don't have the thermal mass heating up the interior of the house. It's storm proof, fire not fireproof, but very fire resistant because it's a concrete structure basically. So I'd build something like that. It would have be completely off grid, all that. But I think I'd really like to have that as home base, so to speak, and then rent a nice mansion or something in different places, different cities, and live there for 6 months, and then go and kind of leave all my crap, all my things at home at the on the family farm, but travel and get to experience life in Arizona. I've been to Arizona, but I've never lived there for 6 months or a year or whatever. And I've been to Seattle, but I've never lived up in Washington State. And just kind of go to some of these different places and just travel around a lot more than I do today. It's kind of what I think I would like to do. So who knows?
I have my little dream of building my property. I don't know about the whole completely 100% self-sufficient thing, but definitely having, solar, definitely being able to augment any required municipality.
Hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Whether that be water, power, or sewer type of stuff.
Hmm.
And then the ability to grow food. I'd like to be so well off that I can hire a Tai Chi coach to really teach me Tai Chi, because I watch the stuff on YouTube, but it's different when you get a feedback loop from an instructor versus
Yeah.
watching somebody do it. Because although, like, when I dance, I think I'm Michael Jackson. Other people have told me, not so much. You know what I mean? So getting that immediate
Uh-huh.
feedback, I think that would be fun to do. I mean, I really would like to do that. And I'd like to study. I'd like to study the actual Chinese pharmacopoeia, which is their version of medicine from
Hmm.
ancient times, not allopathic. Let's prescribe you a pharmaceutical line of medicine that is practiced in the U.S. today.
Hmm.
But I think
I
that would just
also
be incredible.
Yeah, I've also thought about You know, there's the Pasture Poultry Producers Association of America that I used to be a member of. And there's lots of farmers out there that are trying to get to scale. And I'd love
Yeah.
to be like an angel investor kind of behind the scenes to help them start supplanting the commercial, barn raised chicken and all the disgusting environment and horrors that go on there. And for me, like that's what I talk about on my channel is be the change kind of thing. And
Sure.
what kind of difference are you going to make afterwards? What do you want to help bring about that's going to supplant the normie's existence? Because, if we end up with this collapse, a lot of people think, oh, well, that's anarchy, Somalia, that's anarchy. And it's really not. That's the
Yeah.
vacuum left behind when you have a failed state and you have all these people that were dependent. Really what we need is a transition away. You build alternatives that make the existing paradigm irrelevant, and people will just be like, well, why am I still doing this? There's that over there, and they go to it. And that's kind of like I coined the term for freekeen.com, the website that chronicled a lot of the activism up in New Hampshire. I coined the term peaceful evolution. I call myself a peaceful evolutionist. And that's really how I see it is we've got to, Thich Nhat Hanh talks about you don't war one's way to peace. There is no way to peace. Peace is the way. In the same way, you're not going to, you just, the ends have to be the means, if that makes sense.
No, totally, and I agree.
You can't, if you go in and try and fight the government and beat them, you're going to end up becoming them in some other form or fashion. You
No
have
doubt.
to, the way it's going to come about, in my mind anyway, is through peaceful evolution. So,
Well, the simplest thing any of us can do is understand that there are several ways to vote and have your voice be heard. I
mm-hmm.
think one of the very powerful ways is understanding that every time I spend a dollar, I'm voting.
Yes.
I'm putting
Vote
my
with your
voice
wallet,
behind
vote
something.
with your feet.
So if
Mm-hmm.
I go to a grocery store and I'm buying cheap boxed or canned processed foods, I am buying, you name it, Cargill beef or pork, or I'm trying to think of one of the big guys. Is Foster Farms still a big chicken outfit?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. I'm supporting one kind of system.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, the price might be slight, 10%, 15% less than a local product. But the truth of the matter is we all are paying for it. And I
Yes.
think because see, one of the things people don't understand is that our food supply is so adulterated. It's created the most unhealthy population on the planet is the US, and it's
Mm-hmm.
because of the food supply,
Mm-hmm.
right? And people need to understand that although it may be slightly cheaper today, they are paying for it in medical costs later. They're paying it for a lesser quality of life as they get older.
And the modern agriculture, if you want to call it that, they externalize all the costs. So you get all
Right.
this runoff of nitrogen into the rivers that kills the fish and causes algal blooms. You've got they're spraying these glyphosate works because it's persistent, and like they claim, oh, it goes away, but it builds up in the soil, and then eventually you've poisoned your soil to where nothing will grow for 5-10 years. And it's like, and they're with this NPK fertilizing system that just ignores micronutrients and doesn't, they till it up and kill all the microorganisms, and then everything feasts on those, but it doesn't come back as strong the next year. They're salting up the soils, and eventually they're going to reach a point where they're like, enough is enough, and then it gets really ugly. I don't know when that's coming, but that that's the path that America, that the government is leading us down. And if people knew that, I think they would vote with their dollars a little differently. Maybe, yeah, maybe at least some of them would. I don't know. lot
The
of people just don't care, you know? It's like,
downside is younger people they're friggin'
yeah.
bulletproof. When you're young, you can live off McDonald's.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? When you're young and you're forming your worldviews and you're developing your lifelong habits, you're bulletproof relative to later. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But the evidence is there. The
Yeah.
evidence is there. Look at I mean, we have the most cases of chronic disease per capita of anybody anywhere at any time in history.
Mm-hmm.
And believe me, it's not
Not
it's not
normal.
because of um, this or that. It's the food supply
Mm-hmm.
and how the food is grown. You and me could go on for days. I spent a tremendous amount of time and energy learning and understanding these things, and I'm the classic example of I have all this knowledge, but I also have 45 years of ingrained microwave burrito habits. Sugar is my anesthetizer. I don't do drugs. I don't drink. I do
Yeah.
any of those kind of things. I've
Me
got some
either.
really bad problems.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Sugar and carbohydrates. I'm addicted.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not proud of that. It's kind of matter of fact, it's kind of shameful because when people first look at me, they see a guy who's overweight. They don't see, a brilliant, creative, charismatic person. They see a fat guy, a bald fat guy. No, it's the truth.
Yeah.
There's an
It is.
element of there's an element of immediate dismissal
Yeah.
just
It's true.
off of first impression. Sucks. And I want to do something about it. And so it's this constant battle of I'm good, then get stressed or something. I mean, I'm on, I'm off, I'm on. It's a long story. Fuck it.
Yeah. I go up in a jean size and I'm like, all right, that's it. I'm joining the gym and running 4 miles a day.
Oh,
And
good for
it
you.
just gets to where it bothers me. I'm like, forget it. This is not me. I'm changing. So one day when I was dating Tammy Brown, this woman was an executive, had leukemia, was the one that I trained to run the marathon with. I would do her training runs in the weeks leading up to it. She's the one who told me, you should only drink water. I'm like, what? No. And she's like, your body will be so much healthier if that's all you drink. And that's what I did for, I think, 18 months. So it's possible. You just have to, um, you got to find the reason for you. It's like, if you want to quit smoking, you don't quit smoking. You become someone who doesn't desire cigarettes. Like, why would I want that? It's about changing your being to where that's no longer a part of it. It's hard to really describe, but that's like
Oh,
I used to
I'm with
smoke.
you.
That's how I did it. I saw the truth commercials that they used to run about how the tobacco companies lied and this and that, and I'm like, those MFers. I don't know if I can cuss or not, but those guys. And I was like, that's it. I quit a couple times for 6 months, and then I just decided I'm done with it. That's not who I want to be, and it stuck. So
I think I need to get to a place where the pain of staying the same is far greater than the pain of going through a drastic change.
okay,
You know what I mean? And that I don't want to drag the whole audience down. I really wanted to have this interview really be kind of a celebration of number one, two guys who come at this same thing kind of from different angles, but there's really so many more similarities to you and I than there
yeah,
are differences.
yeah, I agree.
You know what I mean? I hope that you and I get an opportunity to collaborate on other things, because one of the things that you should be celebrated for is that you have a teacher's heart, which means you give very freely of yourself without an expectation of anything in the return. I think that's evidenced by the fact you haven't tried to monetize your channel. You haven't set up secret private groups to pay extra money for. you haven't tried to
I have my
leverage.
Patreon, but that's about it.
Well, I think what
And
you
even
never
that's
even
not.
pushed that. Matter of fact, I can remember word for word. I do have this. If you folks want to help support the channel, and it's like that's the only word about it, and it's at the very end of your videos if you even mention it at all.
Yeah. And
So to me,
there's
that's
like
not you pushing it.
sometimes they get a sneak preview of some things, and every now and then I'll drop some comments in for them, but it's not like I'm going to feed you information, Jerry, every week. Join now for $10 a month or what. It's nothing like that. So they're there, because they like the message that I'm putting out and
Because they want to
helping
support
people
you.
get on board. Yeah, that's it, really.
I think that is the greatest compliment ever. I'm not in a position to support the people I'd like to support.
Yep.
So I decided one way I could do it in a little bit is spend the one $5 a month Coil subscription. And if they've enabled their browser to take Coil payments, then I will be, every time I consume
There
their
you go.
content, I will
It
help
adds up.
contribute.
So,
And that's the best I can do living on my $350 a month budget that I set for myself. That may change later down the road. You know what I mean? When Bearable Guy decides to actually flick the switch and this fucking thing goes to the moon.
One day.
One day.
Or we all end up with no electricity going, what the hell happened? With zombies walking around.
That where you are, never in the history of a modern economy has there been to this degree the supply shock and the demand shock at the same time on the back of the most unstable global debt market in the history of the planet. Talk about a recipe for
every day that passes, I'm like, they're not fixing this. I'm more, I'm probably 60-40 still, but like every day it's more of, well, we're going to throw some money at that. Oh, we got this problem now. We're going to throw money at that. And it's like, yeah, y'all aren't pulling out of this, are you?
There's two worlds. I realized it a while back. More and more of the people are going to realize it as we get deeper and deeper and deeper into this. The corporations have got their money. I have not received anything. I was a taxpayer my whole friggin' life. There's nothing in my account. The old man next to me, right? 3 tours Vietnam. 5 separate occasions took a bullet for his country in the Navy. Wounded in combat 5 separate times. Never took a grunion from the VA. Never went and never took a grunion from them. Now you should see the hoops they want him to jump through to try to get some VA medical benefits. And he hasn't received any of his. He's been in a lawsuit with DuPont from a chemical that screwed up his lungs. Hang on, Agent Orange. No. The napalm stuff, that jelly.
Yeah. Okay.
Friendly fire took him out of combat for a while, right? Seared his lungs, have never healed back, so he's been on 60% capacity of his lungs since then. Been in a lawsuit for 50 years. They're just hoping everybody dies.
Yeah, they are. And like,
it's crazy.
The system will let them get away with it too. That's the sad part.
That's the point. The system is not rigged to take care of us. It's rigged. It's rigged to keep the fat cats fat. So either you and I become fat cats or figure out a way to get out of the game. Because I don't like being.
Yeah. And I just try and wake people up to that fact. Like that's what I've really been focusing on with the last couple of videos is, folks, you got to take care of yourself through this thing, because what they've got is a empty bag, and they're going to leave you holding it. So what do you do?
I think we lean on each other.
Yeah.
Daydream a little bit about what life would be if I woke up and saw $10 XRP. And because I think that this truly is an opportunity for us to change our stars. You know what I mean?
And
You
for
can
future
get to the place,
generations, if you
right?
really like, don't be stupid, be smart about it. And
Exactly.
like,
This is our opportunity to stop playing the hand we were dealt and actually get to play a new hand,
mhm.
a different hand, one that has more freedom and mobility.
And I hope really like create this driving force that moved, the whole peaceful evolution thing. These are people that, have been in the trenches, so to speak, and have been on the wrong end of the wealth spectrum in a lot of ways. And like, I, I I hope that I've educated some of them and kind of brought them along to see here's where we need to go. And that's what I'm going to do. I hope you do it and join me, or, do your own thing or whatever. But it's what's needed. We've got to get out from under this authoritarian system of government, at least, in my mind. I know you probably disagree with that to some extent, but
No, I say move,
okay.
leave,
Yeah.
get out. Stop spending your dollars in that economy.
Well, but where
If
do
you
you
really
go?
want out, I mean,
It's
if you
not.
don't want to, if you really don't like that game, I mean, I only say that as a realist. The late
Mhm.
60s, right? The late 60s didn't produce any real change.
Yeah.
Occupy Wall Street did not produce any real change.
Let them
How many
protest all they want as long as they pay their taxes.
how many different administrations, whether it be Republican or Democrat or Republican or Democrat or Republican or Democrat, it's the same old deal. I don't care how many people can blah, blah, blah. Trump is different. Bullshit.
Yeah. How many times are you
Nobody's
going to keep
different. When you're
falling
in
for
that
this?
game, you're in that game. You play
Yeah.
that game.
Hmm. And it's
You
like,
have to blow the whole damn thing up for it to be different.
how many times are people going to fall for this red team, blue team nonsense
Exactly.
of just playing each other off of one another? And meanwhile, government keeps getting bigger, keeps taking over more and more aspects of our daily lives. And, it ends like we're seeing now in collapse. It gets too big to support itself and collapses under its own weight. And I think that's what's happening. So,
I could not agree more. I will tell you from where you are, a little bit east and very much south, there's a place for you if it all goes tits up.
uh-oh, I'm losing you, Jerry.
I can hear you, but your screen is frozen.
Yeah, you're coming back. I heard from where you are a little bit east.
And then very, very south, there's a place for you if it all goes tits up.
Oh, okay. Okay. There's another patron, one of these people that I've talked about that, has offered to help me with whatever I need that's on your island out there. That they
Actually,
move.
Costa Rica isn't an island.
Oh, okay.
It's
Oh,
actually a
yeah.
big chunk of Central America in the
No, I
middle of
think they're in,
north of Panama, south of
yeah, yeah,
Nicaragua.
yeah, yeah. Okay. No, they may be in Puerto Rico then. I think
Oh,
where they are.
now that's an island.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's
I
an
was
island.
getting them mixed up. I know where Costa Rica is.
Let's leave it on that note. Sam, thank you for your time. I
Sure.
would like to collaborate with you again in the future in some way, shape, or form. I think you're a real gem in the community. Keep doing what you do and know that there are a lot of us that maybe you haven't heard our voice, but we do appreciate the time and energy that you put into doing
Okay.
what you do.
Thank you. I appreciate it. This was enjoyable. I like just having discussions like this. So,
For sure, for sure. So, folks, there it was, Sam I Am, in a way that maybe you haven't heard him or seen him before. He's a complex man, as we all have sides, various sides, sometimes darker, sometimes lighter. Until next time, everybody, thank you for tuning in.